A guy found a chipped casserole dish in his mother's garage last year, buried on a shelf, headed straight for the Goodwill pile. He almost tossed it without a second look. It sold for $5,994. That's not a fluke. That's a pattern. The stuff worth real money in most garages doesn't look valuable. It looks like clutter. Broken stereo equipment, rusty tools, scratched up toys still in their boxes from a Christmas 30 years ago. The instinct is to toss it, donate it, or price it at $1 and move on. That instinct is costing people thousands of dollars a year. Most of them will never find out. Comment below if you've got a garage, an attic, or a storage unit you haven't gone through in years. I'd be happy to tell you what to look for. Here are 15 things sitting in garages right now that are worth serious money. Starting with the ones most people walk straight past. Vintage Tonka trucks and unbuilt model kits. Picture a 1950s pressed steel Tonka crane, paint chipped, sitting in a bin marked Kids' Old Toys. In excellent original condition, that same truck clears $300 to $600. Unbuilt plastic model kits from the 60s and 70s do just as well. The ones still sealed inside their sprues, collected by people who never got around to building the one they wanted as a kid. Before you toss either one, is the paint original or has it been touched up? Are all the wheels there? For the kits, has the box ever even been opened? These aren't the flashiest items on this list. And that's exactly the point. Nobody's fighting over a Tonka truck at a packed estate sale, which means if you know what you're holding, you're the only bidder in the room. Give the metal a light wipe, nothing more, and see what's actually underneath the grime. Onto a game most people remember breaking. First edition and vintage board games. The 1981 Dark Tower game had an electronic tower that almost always stopped working. Today, complete and functional, it routinely sells for $300 to $600. The 1979 Alien board game and early Dungeons & Dragons boxes carry the same kind of premium, because nobody's buying these to play them. They're buying the box. Check the box first. Every piece, every card has to be there. And if it's Dark Tower, does the electronic unit still power on? Most of these got played to death as kids, which is exactly why complete examples are so hard to find now. A missing die or a torn instruction sheet can cut the price in half. If you've got the original box sitting under a game that's clearly been loved, that box alone might be worth more than what's inside it. Now, into the part of the garage nobody thinks to check. Classic car parts. A rusted tachometer, a split window assembly for a '63 Corvette, a pair of beat-up original 1960s Mustang hubcaps. Restorers who refuse to use cheap modern reproductions will pay $200 to $1,000 or more for the genuine part, rust and all. Picture a guy restoring a muscle car for a decade, hunting for one factory original piece no reproduction company makes correctly. He's not looking for clean, he's looking for real. And he'll pay more for a rusty original than a shiny aftermarket copy every time. This is one of the few categories on this list where the part doesn't even need to work. A cracked dashboard gauge or a dented trim piece can still sell because a restorer might just need the casting mark or the shape to fabricate a matching piece. Check the part number stamped into the metal before you scrap anything, moving to something everyone owns and almost nobody prices right. Vintage cast iron skillets. A common Griswold number 8 with a large logo, only worth about $100. Don't get your hopes up on the one you cook eggs in every morning. But a Griswold number 13 or number 20 is a completely different story. And here's why. Griswold barely made number 13 pans at all. Some collectors point to old superstition around the number. And the number 20 was so massive and impractical for a home kitchen that almost nobody kept one. Find either in good condition, and you're looking at $1,000 to $3,000. Flip it over. The number stamped into the bottom is the whole ball game, and most people never even check it. The logo style matters too. An early large block Griswold logo generally points to older, more desirable production than the later slant logos. And don't reach for the steel wool. A skillet that's been stripped and re-seasoned loses the original surface collectors look for, even if it cooks just fine. If you're already mentally walking through your garage right now, drop a comment with what you think you might have. Now, heavy enough that most people never even try to sell it. Old power tools, a 1950s DeWalt radial arm saw, a Delta cast iron bandsaw. Restoration enthusiasts will pay $400 to $1,200 for either, and they'll tell you exactly why. They don't make them like that anymore. Modern equivalents are lighter, plastic heavy, built to be replaced, not repaired. The catch is weight, not value. A few hundred pounds of cast iron isn't getting shipped anywhere. These sell locally, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, not on eBay. Check that the motor still turns freely and the table isn't cracked, and you're most of the way there. Even non-working examples have value for parts, especially if the original manual or fence system is still with it. And if you're not sure what you've got, the nameplate on the base almost always has a model number stamped or riveted right into it. Now, something people banish to the garage the moment it stops matching the living room. Mid-century modern furniture, a dusty, cracked leather Eames lounge chair made by Herman Miller. That's $3,000 or more, even beat up. People move it to the garage during a redecorate without ever flipping it over. And that's the mistake, because the maker's stamp underneath the base is worth more than the rest of the room combined. Knoll and certain Danish makers carry the same weight. A name stamped into the frame or burned into the wood is worth checking before anything gets donated or hauled to the curb. Even cracked leather and faded finish don't scare buyers off here, because most of these pieces get reupholstered anyway. What they won't forgive is a missing or damaged maker's mark. Now, into Gen X's actual childhood, old BMX and Schwinn bicycles. A 1970s Schwinn crate, an Apple crate, a pea picker. In original condition pulls $1,000 to $2,500. An 80s Hutch Pro Star or Mongoose Super Goose can hit $2,000 to $4,000. And it's not really nostalgia driving that number, it's people finally able to afford the exact bike their parents sold at a yard sale, without asking, 30 years too late to say no. Original paint, original decals, a serial number that matches the year, that's what moves the price. A repaint tanks the value fast, even a good one, because the original factory paint is part of what's being authenticated. And the smaller details end up mattering more than people expect. A correct original seat, matching grips, the right tires for the year. Since most of these bikes were ridden hard and rarely survived with everything intact. Now, the reason retro gamers are hunting old TVs, retro gaming consoles and CRT TVs. Boxed mint condition consoles pull $500 on their own, easy, but it's the TVs that catch people off guard. Everyone assumes an old tube television is a trip to the dump. A standard one is $50, maybe $150. But a Sony PVM, a professional broadcast monitor that was never sold to regular households, that's $1,000 to $3,500, sometimes more, because it delivers a picture no flat screen can replicate. These were built for TV studios and video editing suites, not living rooms, which is exactly why most people have never heard of them. Check the back for a PVM or BVM model number before you assume it's just another old TV taking up space. A working one with clean RGB inputs and no screen burn is the version collectors are actually chasing. Now onto a stack most people flip through without stopping. Old vinyl records. Most garage records are common pop and classical, genuinely worth nothing no matter how old the cover looks. But a first mono pressing of a 1950s Blue Note jazz record, or the real thing here, a genuine 1966 first pressing of the Beatles' Yesterday and Today, with the original butcher cover artwork peeled or unpeeled. That's a multi-$1,000 record. And that specificity matters, because later reissues used the standard trunk cover artwork instead, and those are common, worth a fraction as much. The cover alone won't tell you what you have. You have to check the label and the matrix number etched near the center hole. Even outside the famous names, pressing details like this quietly separate a $5 record from a $500 one across the whole collection. A first pressing on the original label almost always outvalues a later reissue on the same title, even when the two covers look nearly identical. It's worth flipping through the whole stack before any of it goes in a donation box. Now, one that jumps the list ahead of schedule: boxed vintage toys. A loose, scratched Luke Skywalker figure, $20. The same figure still sealed on its original 1978 Kenner cardboard, $2,000 to $10,000. And here's the number that should stop you cold: a rare, unreleased 1979 rocket-firing Boba Fett prototype, one that never made it to store shelves, sold at auction for $525,000. Picture a kid in 1978 who never got around to opening a toy. Decades later, that decision alone is worth more than the car in the driveway. The prototype is the extreme end, obviously. Most people aren't sitting on a $500,000 to $25,000 toy. But the underlying rule holds for the entire category. An unopened card, even a common one, is worth checking against sold listings before it goes in a donation box, because the seal itself is doing almost all the work. We're barely past the halfway mark and already talking six figures. That's the thing about this list. It doesn't climb in a straight line. Comment below which item you already own. Now back to something most people gut and reupholster before they ever think to sell: old stereo equipment and receivers. Marantz and Pioneer built receivers in the 1970s that only got a better reputation with time. A Marantz 2270, a Pioneer SX1250. Call it $500 to $3,000. A top-tier Pioneer SX1980 in great shape, $5,000 to $10,000. Even a broken one sells for hundreds, stripped for parts. Does the faceplate light up? Is the dial glass intact, the wood veneer original? And the exact model number matters. A few digits difference can be the gap between $300 and $10,000. Even a receiver that doesn't power on can still be worth real money to someone doing a full restoration, since working replacement parts for these are getting harder to find every year. The wood cases matter more than people expect, too. A cracked or missing case can knock a serious chunk off the price, even when the electronics inside are flawless. Now, into a category where 99% of what you own is worth $5. Vintage lures and tackle boxes. Most old fishing lures are exactly that. Junk, worth about $5, sitting in a tackle box, nobody's opened since a fishing trip decades ago. But an antique wooden lure from the early 1900s, made by Hedden, Haskell, or Creek Chub, is a different world entirely. A Haskell minnow sold for over $100,000 at a specialized auction. A realistic garage find is more likely $500 to $2,000. But that gap between most lures and the right lure is the entire reason this hobby exists. Glass eyes instead of painted ones are one of the first things collectors look for, along with the maker's stamp on the belly or the hardware. Original box art, if you've still got it, can add hundreds on its own. Most tackle boxes get sold with the lures loose, and the boxes just get thrown away. Now into territory most people never expect from a piece of metal in the yard: vintage porcelain and neon gas station signs. An original 1930s or 40s porcelain pump plate, a large neon dealership sign, a Chevy neon clock, a Musco gasoline sign. These frequently clear $5,000 to $20,000 or more at specialized auctions like Mecum or Barrett-Jackson. Picture one bolted above a garage door for 40 years, rusting quietly, worth more than the car parked underneath it. The catch: reproductions are everywhere, and they're worthless. Know what genuine porcelain feels like in your hand before you get excited. Weight is actually a decent first clue. Genuine porcelain on steel signs are noticeably heavier than modern printed reproductions. Bullet holes and edge chips, oddly enough, don't hurt the price the way they would on almost anything else on this list. Collectors treat that kind of wear as proof the sign actually hung outside for decades, not proof it should be discounted. Vintage luggage and trunks. A generic old steamer trunk is $100, maybe $300 as a coffee table. But an authentic flat-top trunk from Louis Vuitton or Goyard from the early 1900s, even scratched, even covered in old travel stickers from ports that don't exist under that name anymore. $5,000 to $15,000 easily. High-end interior designers buy these specifically for the wear. Every scratch is a story. Don't sand it away. The hardware is usually the fastest tell. Genuine brass locks and corners, stamped with the maker's name, rather than the plain, unmarked hardware most generic trunks were built with. And the interior lining matters just as much as the exterior, since a trunk that's been gutted and relined loses a lot of what makes it authenticate as original. If you're still with me, hit subscribe. I dig through exactly this kind of overlooked inventory every week, and I'd rather show you what it's worth than watch it get donated. Vintage Pyrex and Corningware. This is the one that started this whole list. Standard Corningware. The blue cornflower pattern most kitchens had. Worth about 20 bucks. But rare promotional Pyrex patterns live in an entirely different market. The Lucky in Love 1959 casserole dish is considered the holy grail of the entire hobby. One sold on eBay for $5,994 out of a Goodwill listing. A mint condition example hit $22,100 at auction. It was never sold to the general public. It was a limited promotional pattern, which is exactly why so few people can identify it on site. Most of what survived did so purely by accident, tucked in the back of a cabinet for 60 years by someone who just liked the dish and had no idea what it was. The dish that almost got donated. The one nobody looked at twice. What nobody tells you before you sell. Don't scrub it, don't polish it, don't repaint it before you check what it is. Chips, scratches, faded paint, dust, and all. That's often exactly what collectors are paying for. And here's what most people never find out. The buyers paying these prices are in specialist auction houses and dedicated collector forums, not scrolling Facebook Marketplace hoping to get lucky. Take a clear photo of the stamp, the label, the pattern, before you sell anything. Search the exact name against completed auction sales, not asking prices. That's the difference between a $20 dish and a $22,000 one.